want to solve this equation. You awake over there? Seem to be struggling a bit. Mm-hmm.
How?
I don't know, because all you've done since you got in here is rub your eyes and stretch
My eye
and
keeps
yawn.
watering. I don't know what's wrong.
Alright. So if I need to solve this.
Is that just a random one, or do you have?
It might just be a random one.
Okay.
I don't think I printed all my examples on this. Sorry. I was less nice this section.
It's okay.
You can do it on notebook paper and stick it in there. The benefit of a 3-ring binder, you can add pages anywhere. So, what would I do here if I wanted to solve?
Add one. Actually,
Mhm.
it's a perfect square.
Well, yeah, either way.
If you want to be technical, it's a perfect square, but also you could add one and solve.
Yep, both of them will give the correct answer. So, if I'm trying to solve for a cosine, how do we get rid of a square? Square root. And anytime we add a square root, we also put plus and minus with that. So this means cosine theta could equal positive or negative 1. We are trying to find theta. Now, we're in calculus, and I told you everything we were going to do is in radians, so let's give a radian answer. I said all possible, so I'll talk about what I mean by that in a second. But think about on the unit circle. Cosine represents x. So I'm asking, when is x equal to positive 1 or negative 1? So it happens at, okay, this we could call 0, we could call 2 pi, whatever you guys want. So if I put 2 pi, this one over here is pi. Now, when I say all possible solutions, we know that with our trig functions, we have coterminal angles, right? Every time I go around the circle, I come back. How far do you travel when you go all the way around the circle?
360 degrees.
360 degrees. In radian form, that is 2 pi. So we could travel around as many times as we wanted. So when we did all possible, we put plus 2 pi k with each of these, where k was an integer value. Remember that little notation. K, that curved E, just saying it is, and then the double bar Z is an integer symbol. There are other ways you could write this. You could just say pi k, because every multiple of pi, we have a solution. 0 pi, 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi. So there are more concise ways. But as long as you have an equivalent solution, I'm good with that. Alright, if I look at this one. So if I'm trying to solve for tangent, I would have to subtract the radical 3. And then we would divide 3. So I'm going to ask myself quadrants and reference angles. When is tangent negative? Remember, all students take calculus. They're all positive in quadrant 1. Tangent is positive in quadrant 3. So it would be negative in 2 and 4. Remember, every trig function has 2 positive quadrants and 2 negative quadrants. Reference angle. I'm asking myself, when is tangent radical 3 over 3? So if I think about my hand trick, tangent is square root of the top over square root of the bottom. It's like tangent of 0 would be radical 0 over radical 4. Tangent of 30, radical 1 over radical 3, which would turn into radical 3 over 3. So 30 degrees is the same as pi over 6. So pi over 6 in quadrant 2. So in quadrant 2, the top is 1 less. That's 5 pi over 6. In quadrant 4, our pattern was double minus 1. Okay, but if I say all possible solutions, what do I have to put with each of those? should tell me that k is an integer. Is that okay? Let's solve another equation. Alright, so I had more than one sign this time. Okay, so if we're looking, we have two terms. Both of them have a sine theta, so we could do a Gray's common factor. Take out that sine theta. Do you guys remember doing this stuff before? Now we're actually pretty lucky here. We don't even have to use any of our fancy formulas because what we have is two things multiplied that equal 0. So just like anytime we factor and solve a quadratic or anything, we factor it and then we set each of those things to 0. So either sine theta equals 0 or 2 sine theta plus 1 equals 0. Right. We're looking for theta. Sine is the y value. Okay, so we're thinking on our unit circle, when does y equal 0? This time I did say give me everything between 0 and 2 pi. Sine is the y. Y is 0 if you don't go up and down at all. So it's at 0 and pi. So these are the two times when my sine is equal to 0. Now I need to work on this one. So if I subtract my 1, I get that sine equals -1/2. Quadrants. All positive in quadrant 1, sine's positive in 2. So that means it would be negative in 3 and 4. Reference angle. We're asking ourselves when sine equals 1/2. That's at 30 degrees, which is pi over 6. So that will give us our final two solutions. Pi over 6 in quadrant 3. So the top is 1 more, 7 pi over 6. In quadrant 4, double minus 1, 11 pi over 6. Because I did not say all possible, I said only give me things between 0 and 2 pi, I don't have to include the 2 pi k on this. So we are done. All right. So that is really the end of that trig section. You guys want to do some review now?
Yes.
Talk about quiz. So we had 4 topics on this quiz. Topic A was factoring. I'm going to try to put a few up here. See if you guys can factor.
Do you want us to factor all the way or just?
Yeah, you're not solving, but just factor it as far as you can. What do I mean when I say rationalize? We need the radical off the bottom. So how would I get rid of that radical? So that's a square root of 5x minus. So on the top, we distribute the -4, so we get -4 radical 5x plus 12. On the bottom, if we FOIL, radical 5x times radical 5x is a 5x. Outside and inside cancel because they're conjugates. 3 times -3 is -9. Bless you. So that is my final answer. So that's our topic A, which remember we didn't really have homework over that. We did it in class those first couple days. We had that handout that we were working on. Any questions about this? Topic B, we went into functions. We started out just looking at graphs and answering questions about a particular graph. So if I looked at this, if I asked you for f of 3, what that means is find y when the x is equal to 3. So I go to my graph. When my x is 3, I'm here on my graph. What's the y value? 1. B. Where does f of x equals 1? F of x is the y. So it's saying find x when y is 1. That's what that means. So if I look at my graph, I want to know every time my y is 1. Let's pretend this actually. So how many times does this graph equal 1? 2, 3, 4 times. So we're going to have 4 x values. So this one, -1, -2, -3, -4, so about -4.5. -1. This looks like about 1.5 and 3. Do you guys understand the difference in how those two questions are phrased? f of x together represents the y value. Alright, zeros. What's a zero? It's an x-intercept. Where do you hit the x-axis? So that would be at -5 and +2. Domain. As I go from left to right, what's my domain? Zeros tell me my graph keeps going in both directions. My range, this one's going down forever and that one's going up forever, so it's also negative infinity to positive infinity. Local max and min. So you can write these in function notation, you can write them as ordered pairs. A local max is not necessarily the highest point on the entire graph, it's just higher than the ones surrounding it. So that would be right here. So that point is -3, about 3.5. Is there another one? 0.2 is also a high point. Minimum. Not the lowest on the entire graph because it's a local, but just lower than surrounding points. So we could say -1, 1, and 2, 0. Where is this graph increasing? Remember, on that you give me the x's. So starting here, it's going up until we get to this point. The x value of that point is -3. Okay? After -3, it starts falling. So we are decreasing from -3 until we get to -1. From -1 to 0, it's going up again, so it's union. From 0 to 2, it's falling, decreasing, and then 2 to infinity, it's increasing again. All right. So far, so good. We had a lot of stuff in this functions topic. So still on topic B, functions. We looked at the graphs. Then if I said, if f of x is 3x minus 4, find f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. Okay, so I asked you to be able to evaluate functions. If I had just said find f of -3, what would you do? Like -3 and for x. So when I'm asking you to do this whole expression, we have to start. First thing I asked is find f of x plus h. That says go to this equation and replace your x's with what? So there's my f of x plus h. Minus f of x is what? All divided by h. me out. My 3x's drop, my 4's drop. So we get 3h divided by h, which is one last thing we did in that topic was domain.
Oh,
Sorry, I thought you were saying something. Let's do a couple domain problems. If we have a fraction, what do we have to remember? The bottom cannot be 0. So for this one, I know x squared minus 4 cannot be 0. So x squared cannot be 4. Square root plus and minus, so x can't be positive or negative 2. I told you if it was just one value I wanted to interval, if it was more than one, you could just say x cannot be these numbers. If we have radicals, what do we have to remember? If it's an even radical, the thing underneath has to be greater than or equal to 0. Because if you have a negative under a square root, you would get an imaginary. If I'm solving this, if I subtracted my 8, I would get negative x greater than or equal to negative 8. What happens when you divide by a negative? X is less than or equal to 8. So the interval on that would be negative infinity to 8. That's all the stuff with functions. Any issues on that one?
So then, for the first one, could be negative in the domain beta 2, union beta 2,
Topic C were the word problems, the linear word problems. You guys want one of those? Yes? Okay. All right, so let's say I'm making up a very generic problem. Okay, so I could ask for these in different ways, but let's say I said to write the cost as a function of miles. Okay, that sentence right there tells me how to set up my equation. Cost as a function. The function is which variable? The y. So my y has to be my cost as a function. So the cost is my y. So my x would be the number of miles. I did not specify what variables to use. Do you guys want to just use x and y? So to write the equation of a line, we need 2 points. So the cost of driving 500 miles was $275. The miles has to be my x. The cost is my y. Cost of driving 750 miles was 400. So make sure you are putting those ordered pairs in the correct order. Then we need the slope. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I get 1/2. So now you take one of your points and your slope, plug into y equals mx plus b. So if I just did the first one, y equals m times x plus b. So my equation would be y equals 1/2 x plus 25. So usually on these I would ask you to then interpret some things. So I might say, tell me what the slope represents. So think about when we found slope, it was y over x. Y was the cost, x was the number of miles. Okay, so you could say this a few different ways. You could say it costs $1 to drive 2 miles, or it costs $0.50 or 50 cents every 1 mile, something along those lines. If I asked you to interpret the y-intercept, what would you say? Right, costs us $25 even if we don't drive at all. Are we okay with that? Then topic D is the trig stuff, which is what you are working on right now. So I'm not going to do any of those. You'll work on that homework tomorrow. If you have any questions over the trig stuff, we'll go over that. If you have any over this review, I'm happy to go over those as well. If you are struggling or not sure about something, please see me before tomorrow.